Hello, thank you for listening. I want to talk about divorce, pros and cons. My wife and I have had our troubles in the past, quite a bit of them, in fact, and there were many times when I was tempted to throw in the towel and say, this is not worth it. I did not sign up for this. But instead, we stuck it out. And yes, we had many fights. A lot of things were thrown, broken, things like that. Times when I didn't know if the relationship was going to make it. But I am very glad that we did stick it out and that we did work with each other and that we did not get a divorce. So let's look at the pros and cons of divorce, because any major decision, we should definitely be thinking about the major pros and cons. So the pros, well, we'll start with pros. The main pro is going to be that you can get away from the person you've come to despise. But here's the kicker. If you have kids, then this is not a true win, because you still have to work with your ex while your kids are stuck in the middle, being ping-ponged between the two of you. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard one parent talking bad to their kid or kids about another parent who was not there to defend themselves. That's just one example of the messed up things that happen to kids in divorce. That's about really the only pro, right? The pro is you can get away from that person and maybe so that you can start another relationship, hopefully a better one. That's it. That's the pro. Now, let's look at the cons. Okay, first one, dating. Well, in my experience, which is limited, but time, money, and effort, big parts of dating. A lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. And also, here's the other big problem with dating. It's all about keeping up on appearances, and appearances can be deceiving. People inevitably change after marriage because one of their major life goals is now completed, and the rest of their goals have now shifted. People who have gone through multiple marriages have without a doubt failed to realize this extremely important concept, that people change over time and their goals change a lot oftentimes after marriage. So, what's another con of dating? Well, I hate to say it, but there is a high rate of STDs. There are many different kinds of STDs, some of which can be treated with medicines and gotten rid of, others cannot. Human papillomavirus is one of the more common STDs, and it is a virus. You cannot get a medicine to make it go away. The rate of HPV, which causes genital warts and cancers, is approaching 50% or more in people with only more than one lifetime sex partner. 50% or more chance of getting this if you have sex with someone who has had sex with anyone else, even just one other person. Let's look at another con of divorce on a different tack. Parents that do not enforce rules the same way have kids that are disorganized, hurting emotionally, and are often a pain in the butt because parents have not set clear boundaries that each parent equally enforces. So kids naturally test their boundaries, just like if you're playing a game and you're trying to figure out the rules of the game, how you can play it the best you can. You need to know how far you can go before you die. What you can do to the extreme before you can die. Well, similarly, when those boundaries are not clear with kids, they can get into a lot of trouble, especially in their teenage years when they can become more reckless and get into more dangerous situations. This problem of kids not understanding boundaries and also being emotionally upset at the same time gets magnified greatly in divorce, and the kids suffer a lot due to constantly changing rules and routines and emotional instability. This will sabotage their likelihood of success in life greatly. Another con of divorce. When people get married, they swear an oath before others and God that they will stick by that person through good times and hard times until death do them part. Only very significant circumstances warrant an oath before God, such as marriage and giving testimony in court. So this is a very important oath that not a lot of people really take seriously. Now, let's just suppose that God exists. Breaking that oath is basically cursing the person who breaks it. It's not that God is going to inflict harm on them, but if a good God exists, then evil also exists. And without God's protection, a person is much more likely to be nailed by evil. So again, look at how many people remarry several times, and all their life they cannot figure out why things keep going wrong in their marriages. Perhaps breaking that first oath, which was made before God, continually sets them up for failure. And also combine that with the idea that people change after marriage. Two very important concepts to keep in mind why so many marriages go wrong and keep going wrong with future marriages. So, assuming God exists and you want God's blessing and protection, you never, ever want to renege on a promise to God. Last major con, okay, and this is a big one. Court settlements for estates and equities can be devastating and can drag on for a long, long time, as can custody battles for children. So, there you have it. You have the major pro, the one major pro, which even has a caveat, basically nullifying it in that you still have to work with that person if you have kids, right? And then you have a bunch of major cons after that. So that's why on the surface, a divorce may appear very alluring. It can look like a way to get out of a relationship that has gone bad. But that is simply an illusion. Divorce is always messy and always difficult. My general advice is unless you are with someone who is a serial cheater, someone who has cheated repeatedly and you just cannot trust, otherwise, I would advise to stick it out and work with each other, because that amount of work is far less than the amount of work that goes into divorce. So do what you promised to do when you married that person and work with them. Do your best to try to help them and encourage them. Don't just throw in the towel because it seems like too much effort and it seems like that person may never change. People certainly can and do change all the time for the better, but they also change all the time for the worse. Nothing in life is static. Everything is subject to change. We need to help each other. There are two main reasons why people don't stick out the hard times in a relationship. The first reason why they don't stick it out is people have conditional love. This is why the divorce rate is so high. When people inevitably change after getting married, our love can actually change for them because now they're not meeting the same conditions that we had before. So if we have kids and we end up loving our kids more than our spouse, then we are really putting ourselves in a vulnerable place where we may end up valuing the kids far more than our spouse. A wise person will not let that happen. How many people have had a kid die and then their marriage got wrecked right afterwards because they valued that kid more than their spouse, and then there was nothing to hold their marriage together after that? How many people get divorced after their kids leave for college for the same reason? Because now their kids are gone out of the house and their marriage sucks. They never put any work into their marriage. All of their love was put into those kids, and now the kids are gone. So now they got nothing left. The point is, marriage takes work. A real loving relationship takes work and sacrifice. If you're too selfish to put in work and sacrifice for the person that you love, or at least one that you definitely loved at one point in time, then you are not worthy of any romantic relationships because you are simply too selfish. And most likely, any romantic relationship that you get into is doomed to fail. So the second big reason why people don't stick out marriage in hard times is people think that if only someone else or something else could change, then you would finally be happy or content. The problem with this point of view is that it is placing our inner feelings, which are constantly subject to change, based on the external environment, which is also constantly subject to change. This is why happiness is so fleeting for most people, because they have not learned that happiness is an inside job. No one can force me to be happy. In fact, if I'm in a particularly bad mood and I'm around a bunch of happy people that like me, I may still remain in a bad mood. I have to choose to try and find things to be happy about. My mind is a giant magnifying glass. Whatever I choose to focus on gets magnified. If I focus on all the bad things and the things that are not going right with myself or someone else, I am miserable. If I force myself, no matter what my feelings are, to focus on the things that are going right and how I can try to improve things for myself or someone else, then my mood naturally follows and is better. Feelings follow the directions of my thoughts. If your feelings are leading your thoughts, then you are screwed and you will never find happiness or content. I can promise you that. Don't let your feelings guide you. Don't let your feelings of despising that person guide you. Instead, force yourself to look at the bigger picture and force your feelings to follow what your actions are. Put your actions in the right place and your feelings will follow. How to mend a broken relationship. Start by aiming for unconditional love for you and for them. Everybody struggles in various ways through life. Everybody needs some kind of help and support. Everybody makes multiple mistakes through life. Relationships are hard and they take work, but it is far less work to try to improve it than it is to break off that relationship and try to start a new one that is just as likely, if not more so, to fail. Unconditional love means that no matter what a person does, no matter how pathetically they struggle, no matter how many times they make the same mistakes, unconditional love patiently keeps trying to help. Yes, it is a sacrifice, but all good things in life require sacrifice. Children require sacrifice, but they are also worth it. Just like having kids, whenever you make a sacrifice in life, it is because what you get from it is far greater in the long run than what you put into it. A career is a sacrifice. School is a sacrifice. All the big things in life are a sacrifice. Relationships are no different. Try to always keep that end goal in mind. The end goal is to grow old with someone you love and be able to share your life with them and with others in your family, even though none of you are perfect and never will be. Another approach is to try to look for the good in people. Focus on that, and then look for how things can be improved in a relationship. Focus on the good and focus on how you can help improve. On the other hand, focusing on all the things that don't seem to be going right or that seem to never be changing will only magnify them and make them worse. Lastly, this whole process of restoring relationships can be much easier if a person is seeking God. Jesus endured the cross for the joy that was set before him. For the joy set before him. The joy of us being set free from evil and made right in God's sight. So Jesus is all about restoring relationships with God and with others. For how to invoke God to help restore a relationship, that could be discussed another time. I hope you found this helpful. God bless you. And no matter what, I am always going to aim to love someone, even if they make mistakes. Even if someone I love goes through a divorce, despite me trying to help them and tell them this is a bad idea, I'm still going to keep loving them. I'm still going to try to help them no matter what. In summary, the three main things I recommend to focus on to improve a relationship are: number one, unconditional love for you and for them. Number two, magnifying the good things and not the bad things. Magnify what's going right and what you love. Don't overfocus on the bad. Instead, ask yourself, how can I help improve what is not up to par? And the third thing is, remember, everyone deserves a second chance. And I've been given many, many second chances throughout various things in my life. So I want to aim to do the same thing. Now, let's say you do believe in God and you want to maybe say a quick prayer for help here. All right? I think a simple way to go would be something like this. God, I thank you for my spouse. I thank you that we have had some great times together. And I thank you that we swore help to improve them wherever things can be improved. Help me to love them and love myself, Lord. I thank you again for everything that you've given us, including our relationship. Amen.